Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back into the show. Yet another episode of Crushing Fantasy Football. I am Bryce Lockridge, your host of the show, guys. Today, my rankings are officially out. I am super pumped to give you guys my rankings. I have my top 100 listed in the description below. And in today's video, I'm going to be giving you my top 25. And I'm going to start with the first player on my list, and that is Jonathon Taylor. Now, he's the easy 101 for me, guys. I understand how hard it is for the number one running back in fantasy to repeat as the number one running back in fantasy, but I just don't see myself taking anyone other than Jonathon Taylor with the first pick. I mean, this is a guy who's going to get 25 plus touches a week. He's going to run the ball 18 plus times, get 5 to 7 targets out of the backfield. Those are on slow weeks. He's going to see weeks where he has 30 plus touches in his offense, and it's now an improved offense. I mean, Matt Ryan is only going to make the overall efficiency of the offense better. I love his touchdown upside. I love his volume. I love his projected yards per carry. I mean, this dude is probably going to average somewhere around 4.7 yards a carry this year. The efficiency is going to be stupid, and I love him as the number one pick. Next player on my list is going to be Austin Eckler. Austin Eckler is a running back wide receiver hybrid, guys. I mean, he does it all. He receives tons of passes out of the backfield. He lines up as a wide receiver and runs routes. He carries the ball 12 to 15 times a game. He gets tons of high-value touches and a very high-scoring Chargers offense. And you got to figure the touchdown upside is probably even better this year for Austin Eckler. He's going to continue to get heavy red zone usage, and the offense with a more experienced Justin Herbert is probably going to be even better. This could be the best offense in football, and Austin Eckler is going to win you your fantasy league if you draft him. This is a league-winning player. I know that you have to invest the second pick of the overall draft to get him, or maybe the third, but this dude is going to win you leagues. Next player on my list is going to be Cooper Kupp. Cooper Kupp is an exception to the rule. I hate drafting wide receivers early, but Cooper Kupp is a lock every week for double-digit targets. This isn't going to change this coming season. He's still going to be fed double-digit targets almost every single week. He has Allen Robinson and Van Jefferson to help take defensive attention off him, so the targets are going to be there. He has a very good chance to lead the league again in red zone targets, which, as we know, is the most important statistic when projecting wide receiver production. Every year, if you look at the receivers that are the top 10 red zone targets in the NFL, you'll usually find the top 5 wide receivers in fantasy in that list. So he has a very good chance to be a top red zone target again. Thus, the awesome fantasy production for Cooper Kupp is almost inevitable. And I love him even coming off the board as the third overall pick. Next player on my list is going to be Joe Mixon. Guys, this is a guy who has shown to be absolutely dominant for fantasy, and he's never had a good offensive line. Now, the offensive line is significantly improved in Cincinnati. If he was good before, just imagine how good he's going to be with some actual blocking. This is one of the most talented running backs in the NFL, and his yards per carry is probably going to be more efficient this year than it ever has in his entire career with this improved offensive line. The touchdown upside is through the roof due to the plethora of passing weapons and the overall efficiency of this offense. I love Joe Mixon this year. If he's not a top 5 running back, I would be very surprised. I am taking him as the number 4 overall pick off the board. Next player on my list is going to be Derrick Henry. Derrick Henry is a risk because, well, he's coming off a foot injury. He is getting older. There's definitely some reasons why people might be hesitant to draft Derrick Henry, but this is still a guy that gives you the highest ceiling in fantasy. I mean, right up there with, Christian McCaffrey and Jonathon Taylor. His ceiling is absolutely ridiculous. And, he is going to get 28 plus carries in a lot of games. This guy is the most heavy rushing volume running back in the entire NFL. And although he doesn't give you much passing upside, he carries the ball so much, and he has such awesome big playability that it makes up for that. So Derrick Henry is my number 5. Next player on my list is going to be Najee Harris. Now, this is a guy who is an extreme volume hog, 20 plus carries a week, almost a lock for that. And, 5, 7, 8 targets out of the backfield is about accurate on a weekly basis for Najee Harris. He touches the ball a ton, and due to his insane volume, he is automatically fantasy relevant. And I think that the overall efficiency of the offense in Pittsburgh will be at least a little bit better this year. So he could probably eclipse double-digit touchdowns again. He hasn't had really any injury concerns. He's one of the safest picks in the first round. Next player on my list is going to be Alvin Kamara. Now, this is a guy who has been dominant his entire fantasy career, and now he is getting more rushing volume than he ever has in his entire life. Look, last season, he started to have those games where he had 20-plus carries in a lot of games, and he still absolutely dominates as far as passes out of the backfield. This dude is one of the ultimate dual-threat running backs, and, I think the touchdown upside might be a little bit capped, and it might not be quite what it used to be when Drew Brees was the quarterback, but now that he, combines his awesome passing abilities with rushing the ball 20-plus times a game, his talent, his efficiency, his volume has him as a top 10 overall pick for me. Next player on my list is going to be Christian McCaffrey. Obviously, guys, I wish I could have this guy higher in my rankings. I would love to have him as my number one. But the injury concerns are a serious problem at this point. I mean, this guy hasn't played pretty much at all in the last 2 seasons. And, I just don't trust him to stay healthy. Now, if he stays healthy, he has the highest ceiling in fantasy. The highest ceiling in fantasy. So I have to have him, in my first round. But, unless he slips to the back half of the first round, I don't really want anything to do with him. There are players that also have a massively high ceiling that are way safer and don't come with the injury risk. But if he slips to the back end of the first round, I guess I have to take him. But I doubt that's going to happen anyway. He's probably going to be taken with one of the first 3 picks, but I have to have him a little bit lower because of the injury concerns. Next player on my list is going to be Justin Jefferson. Now, Justin Jefferson is a player who is going to receive double-digit targets. He's going to be awesome in play action, big plays in this Vikings offense because teams are game planning to stop Dalvin Cook. This sets up awesome play action opportunities for Justin Jefferson to eat downfield on his big plays. He's an awesome big play wide receiver. He's a prominent red zone threat. He can beat you underneath. He can beat you on the deep ball. This is one of the most versatile and talented wide receivers in the entire NFL, and he should be drafted in the first round. Next player on my list is going to be Devonte Adams. Now, Devonte Adams, guys, is still one of the best wide receivers in the NFL. Obviously, he has a slight quarterback downgrade, but guys, this Raiders offense is going to be very, very good. I mean, I think they're going to be one of the best offenses in the NFL, led by Devonte Adams and Darren Waller. And we know that Devonte Adams, if you look at the past 5 seasons, he is always a top 10 red zone target. Okay, and that is not going to change in this offense. He is still going to be a top 10 red zone target, thus providing almost guaranteed awesome fantasy production. He is going to handle probably 28% of the team's overall target share, thus guaranteeing fantasy production. He has great big play ability. He can beat you in any part of the field. This guy is going to be absolutely dominant. He might not be quite as good as he was on the Packers, but he's still going to be almost that good. And so back half of the first round is about right for Devonte Adams. Next player on my list is going to be Jamar Chase. Now, Jamar Chase obviously had the incredible rookie season. I love him again this year. I mean, his big play ability is second to none. He's kind of like pretty much like the new Tyreek Hill, and the fact that he gives you the highest weekly ceiling of any wide receiver in the NFL. This is a guy who could come out on any given week and give you like 40-plus PPR points. His weekly ceiling is awesome. He is very fun to watch. I'm a huge fan of Jamar Chase, as I know a lot of you guys are, because anybody that likes football loves Jamar Chase. He's one of the most exciting players in the league, and I'll take him in the back half of the first round. Next player on my list is going to be Leonard Fournette. Guys, I love Leonard Fournette as a workhorse running back in the Tampa Bay offense. Look, this offense is going to be very good. Chris Godwin coming back, might not be 100% right off the bat, but he's going to be 100% for most of the season. They still have Mike Evans. Remains to be seen if Rob Gronkowski comes back, but they're still led by the GOAT Tom Brady. This is going to be a very good offense. Leonard Fournette gets to be a true 3-down back. That's rare in today's NFL with all the split backfields. So the fact that he is going to get insane rushing volume, and he's going to see passing volume, and he's going to have touchdown upside. I love Leonard Fournette, and he was my number 12 overall. Number 13 is going to be Travis Kelce. All right, guys. Travis Kelce is going to explode this year. I'm telling you, he's going to go off. Look, the Chiefs don't have Tyreek Hill anymore, so a lot of the overall opportunity share has been vacated, meaning Travis Kelce is probably going to see even more targets, which is crazy to think because he was already such a ridiculous volume hog. But now he's going to receive even more targets, and this offense is still going to be very good, guys. His touchdown upside is still going to be there. It's still an offense led by Pat Mahomes and Andy Reid. There's still going to be a top 10 NFL offense, and Travis Kelce is going to be the benefactor of this. He's going to eat in PPR formats due to loads of receptions, and he's going to score a lot of touchdowns. He's a player that is so good that on any given week, he could have 125 plus receiving yards, and he's one of the biggest difference-making players in all of fantasy football. If you reach for him at the back half of the first round, I wouldn't be that mad at you. I love Travis Kelce. Next player on my list is going to be Saquon Barkley. This is way higher than a lot of people are going to have Saquon, but I just don't understand why he's not higher in people's rankings. This is a guy who now is playing behind a bolstered offensive line. He now has more offensive weapons to work with than he has in his entire career with Kadarius Toney, Sterling Shepard, Kenny Golladay. This offense can actually be pretty good. And the Giants get such a bad rap because they're the Giants and they've been bad for so long, but this team is going to be better this year. And Saquon is 2 years removed from his major injury. And so you got to figure that he is healthier than ever now. So with a healthy Saquon, Saquon Barkley that's still a young, extremely talented running back, running behind a better offensive line, I see a huge bounce-back season for Saquon. And I'm drafting him in the second round. Next player on my list is going to be Stefon Diggs. I love Steffon Diggs for a huge bounce back. Look, his numbers last year were a fluke because they weren't nearly as good as they should have been considering the offense that he plays in, his talent level, his amount of red zone targets, his amount of overall target share. The fact that he didn't produce super elite wide receiver one fantasy numbers last year was extremely fluky. And it's just because, that's how the NFL works sometimes. That's how fantasy football works. Sometimes all of the factors are in place for you to have a very good fantasy season. And for whatever reason, it just doesn't pan out. And that's kind of what happened to Steffon Diggs last year. But guys, this is still one of the better receivers in the league. He's on what could be the highest scoring offense in the NFL, led by an awesome quarterback in Josh Allen. He's still going to be the main red zone target. He's still going to be the main target hog. So I love Steffon Diggs for a huge bounce back. Next player on my list is going to be Mark Andrews. Now, I didn't like Mark Andrews as much as everybody else did when Marquise Brown was still on the team. But now that there's no Marquise Brown, who are the Ravens going to pass the ball to? They're going to be feeding Mark Andrews the ball like crazy. His sheer volume is going to be ridiculous. The overall efficiency of the offense isn't going to be quite as good, so the touchdown upside might be down a little bit. But for PPR formats, this guy's going to dominate. He's going to get double-digit targets in a lot of weeks at the tight end position. And any tight end that gets you that kind of volume could be a huge difference-making player. I like Mark Andrews on the year. Maybe, some people probably don't like him as much without Marquise Brown. I actually like him more without Marquise Brown because now I know that they're going to be force-feeding him the ball even more. His overall target share on the team from the tight end position is going to be ridiculous, and a ridiculous target share from the tight end position can win you weeks. I love Mark Andrews this coming season. Next player on my list is going to be Deandre Swift. Now, Deandre Swift, guys, is kind of the new age Aaron Jones. He gets healthy rushing volume. He sees a lot of passes out of the backfield. He is dynamic with the ball in his hands. This is one of the best dual threat running backs in the league, right up there with Austin Eckler. This guy is a wide receiver running back hybrid, and I love watching him play. He's very exciting. I think that the Lions might be slightly better on offense this year. We saw the emergence of Amon-Ra, late in the season last year, and I think that this offense at least has some hope to be improved from what it was. So the touchdown upside will at least be decent, and we know that he's going to produce awesome PPR numbers due to catching a lot of passes. I like Deandre Swift, middle to late second round. Next player on my list is going to be Aaron Jones. I like Aaron Jones a lot more than a lot of people do this year. Devonte Adams left the team, meaning his red zone targets are going to go up, his red zone carries, his overall touchdowns within the red zone. All his red zone numbers are going to increase massively without Devonte Adams. I'm not really worried about the fact that A.J. Dillon is running behind him. This is one of the most efficient running backs in the league, playing in what's still going to be a very good offense. I like the acquisition of Christian Watson. I think he's going to eat for the Packers this year. I think that it's still going to be a good offense led by Aaron Rodgers. The touchdown upside is very high for Aaron Jones now, especially with no Devonte Adams. The yards per carry is always very good for Aaron Jones. He has averaged over 5 yards a carry in his career. I think he's going to be a beast in 2022. Next player on my list is going to be Mike Evans. Now, I love Mike Evans this year. I don't see why he is so low in wide receiver rankings. This guy has top 3 wide receiver upside. Look, led by the GOAT Tom Brady. There's no more Antonio Brown. Chris Godwin's target share might be down a little bit due to coming back from a major injury, and we don't even know if Rob Gronkowski is coming back. So Mike Evans is a clear-cut wide receiver 1 on this team once again, and it's going to be a very good offense. They've got Leonard Fournette in the backfield. They've got the GOAT Tom Brady slinging the rock. Mike Evans' touchdown upside is very high because this offense is going to score a lot of points, and he is a prominent red zone threat. I love Mike Evans this season. And, if you want to reach for him in the middle of the second round in PPR leagues, it might not even be that bad of an idea. Next player on my list is going to be Nick Chubb. I like Nick Chubb at his newfound value. I didn't like him going in the first round because he's a committee running back, but now that he's slipped into kind of that early third round, mid third round range, I like his value a lot better. I will gladly draft Nick Chubb at this spot in the draft. I always said to fade Nick Chubb, but now that he's being drafted a little bit later, I actually like him. He's still one of the best running backs in the league. The offensive line is incredible for the Browns. And now they have a better quarterback. So the touchdown upside is going to be pretty good. Obviously, Kareem Hunt's going to steal some of his touchdowns. Deshaun Watson's going to steal some of his rushing touchdowns. But this team is going to get in the end zone so much that he still has pretty decent touchdown upside. And we know that his yardage upside is one of the highest in the NFL. He's a running back that could come out on any given week and give you over 150 rushing yards. So I like Nick Chubb at the value, at where he's going in the draft now. Next player on my list is going to be Ceedee Lamb. Ceedee Lamb is the wide receiver 1 for the Cowboys. He's going to get to be the benefactor of being on an extremely high-scoring offense. This team is going to be an extremely high-scoring offense again this year. I don't see why they would slow down. Obviously, they lost Amari Cooper, but all that means is even more targets for Ceedee Lamb. He's going to get to be the clear-cut one on the team, and He's going to score a lot of touchdowns. He's going to present a safer floor due to an increased target share with no Amari Cooper. So he has the floor-ceiling combination this year that you want to have. Next player on my list is going to be Keenan Allen. Guys, Keenan Allen is the most reliable wide receiver in fantasy football, right up there with Devonte Adams. He's a lock every single week for 8, 9, 10 targets. And a lot of games this year, he's going to get over 10 targets. He's going to be playing in one of the highest scoring offenses in the NFL, and he's going to get awesome red zone usage. This guy is a top 10 red zone target. I think right off the top of my head, 3 out of the past 5 seasons, maybe 2 out of the past 5 seasons, he's been a top 10 red zone target. But the fact of the matter is, he gets targeted heavily within the red zone. That's not going to change this year. And he is going to absolutely eat in PPR formats because this is a guy that averages almost 7 receptions per game last year. And this year, it's probably going to be just about the same. The exact same offense is coming back. So they're probably going to run the offense similarly to the way they did last year. And Keenan Allen is going to feast. So I have him as my number 22. Number 23 is Deebo Samuel. I have to drop Deebo a little bit, guys, because with Trey Lance coming in, he is a rushing quarterback. So you got to figure that Deebo's overall rushing upside is going to be a little bit limited. He got a lot of his production last year from big rushing plays and rushing touchdowns. So the rushing touchdowns is probably going to go down, and the overall amount of rushing yardage is probably going to go down because Trey Lance is going to be running the ball more. I'm not saying that Deebo isn't going to line up out of the backfield. I'm not saying that it's not going to be good for fantasy, but I have to drop him a little bit from what he was last year because it's almost impossible for his numbers not to go down a little bit with Trey Lance running the ball and, just with the freakish season that he had. I still think that he's going to be very good for fantasy, and I would take him at the back half of the second round, but I wouldn't reach for him sooner than that because you have to expect the numbers to go down a little bit. With that being said, he's still going to get very good passing volume. He's going to have weeks where he gets double-digit targets. He has awesome big playability. He can run after the catch. So I still recommend drafting Deebo Samuel. Just don't reach for him too high. Next player on my list is going to be Tyreek Hill. Best big playability in the entire NFL, but I hate the downgrade at quarterback. Going from Pat Mahomes to Tua is a terrible downgrade. I don't like him in this offense. With that being said, he still provides awesome big playability. He's still probably going to be used on some jet sweeps and some run plays. He's going to be targeted on deep balls. He's going to be targeted underneath. He just can eat from anywhere in the field. He's one of the best players in the NFL, so he's just good enough to crack my top 25, but I really don't want to invest second-round draft capital in Tyreek Hill, and people are probably going to be overdrafting him because of the name, so I honestly think it's best to fade Tyreek Hill altogether. But if you're really desperate for a wide receiver and he's sitting there at the beginning of the third round, I guess you can draft Tyreek Hill, but be cautious. He's not going to be as good as he was on the Chiefs. Next player on my list, just cracking my top 25, is Dalvin Cook. Now, Dalvin Cook obviously has one of the highest ceilings in fantasy, but last season, even when he played, he was not that good for fantasy football. And this is a running back who literally has never finished a fantasy season. He's always at least missed some games. Even in his best season, he was out come fantasy playoff time. And so why would you draft this guy in the first round? It doesn't make any sense. This guy is probably going to get hurt and leave you with an empty roster spot if you're not drafting for depth. If you don't draft Alexander Mattison to go along with him, you shouldn't even consider drafting him in the first place. But if you're going to draft Dalvin Cook, make sure to draft Alexander Mattison. Expect that Dalvin Cook does still have a tremendously high weekly ceiling. That's why I have him just in my top 25, but he is an extreme injury risk. So you have to draft Alexander Mattison if you draft Dalvin Cook. With that being said, I would avoid him altogether because he's probably going in the first round and you can get a much safer player that isn't going to get hurt. So that's why I have Dalvin Cook just in my top 25. All right, guys, I appreciate you tuning into the video. Like I said, top 100 rankings listed below. Let me know what you agree on or don't agree on with my top 25 and with my top 100. I appreciate you tuning into the video. Catch you later.